So how are you doing?
Good. Today.
Okay, good. The first thing that I just want to name is that when we last met, we discussed using CFUs after giving what to do directions, and I noticed that you were doing that yesterday. So what was the impact of this on your class?
At least for a little bit, it kept him on task, like longer than it did the first few days, because it was the reminder, and I think some people who weren't listening, they kind of got the direction when I asked the CFU. So like that helped.
Great, go ahead and write it down. Okay, so today we're going to dive into effectively ensuring that we have 100% after giving what to do directions.
Okay.
So after giving what to do directions, what are the key steps to ensuring that you have 100% of kiddos?
Scanning. And making sure that the directions you gave are being like implemented before you move.
Before you move, absolutely. And how do we ensure that they are being effectively implemented?
Like, if you say silent, that it is silent, or if you say like, or like positively narrating if they're doing it right.
And if they're not doing it right?
Giving corrections.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to model what this should look like in your room. That's why we're in here today.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show you a video, okay?
Okay.
All right. Scholars eyes on me in 3. Thank you, back row in 2. I have my front row and 100% of eyes on me in 1. Thank you, scholars. When I say go, you have 3 minutes to work on questions number 1 through 4. Silent, solo. 3 minutes. Go. Willie got started right away. Thank you, Deshaun. And front row is working silently and urgently. Will, that's 1 side conversation. So what are some of the things that you noticed while I was?
The positive narration and the quick correction for the scholar who like wasn't doing what you wanted them to do, and definitely not moving for like a solid 10 seconds.
Great.
Until you realize everyone was doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then you took the left.
Great, go ahead and write those things down. So now we're going to watch a video from class yesterday. What I want you to keep in mind was what is the gap between how I modeled it and how you gave what to do directions.
You raise your hand and you tell me, but you should be at a level 0. What level should we be at, David? 2. What level should we be at? What level should we be at? 0. Thank you. Go.
Okay, so we're going to zoom in on this part right here. So remember, we're focusing on ensuring 100%. Notice what happens when you release kiddos.
I started walking.
You started walking right away.
Yeah.
And what else?
I didn't do any of the scanning or positive narration.
Great. So based off of what we talked about, what do you think your action step is going to be?
Making sure that after I give directions, I positively narrate the good, then do the quick corrections for those who aren't. And making sure to definitely like scan and stay at the front until I see everyone's complying.
Beautiful. So you named all the hows. Our what for this week is effectively ensuring you have 100% after what to do directions. Okay, and your first how is remain squared up and standing still. Step 2 is scan using dance moves while still squared up. Number 3 is narrate the positive and correct behavior. And then number 4 is do not move from the post until you have 100%. Okay, what questions do you have so far?
No.
Great. So go ahead and flip to the back of your, we're gonna take 2 minutes to script out what you're going to say after you release for your what to do directions. So do you have like an independent practice that you're gonna release for today?
Yes.
Great, so think about your independent practice. I want you to script your what to do directions, but I want you to specifically script what you're going to say to remind yourself to stand still. So after you release, what are you going to say to yourself?
To myself.
Yeah,
okay.
So make sure that's in your script. So go ahead and take 2 minutes.
Okay.
Ready to get live?
Yes.
All right, so the first round of practice, you're going to have 100% of normal compliance, okay?
Okay. Should I do a check for understanding? I wrote it in, but
When I say go silent, we're going to independent practice 7 minutes. So I think because your directions are so short, you don't necessarily need one here.
okay.
Is the independent practice like problems?
It says like on the page independent practice.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then I think this is fine.
It's like a separate sheet, yeah.
Yeah, I think this will actually just add on to your economy of language. So unless it's like long,
Necessary.
complicated directions, that's
Okay.
fine. Yep.
Got it. When I say go, silently.
Yeah, you want to be like front and center in the middle of your room. So think about if these are your 3 desks, you should be like in the middle of, yep.
In both of them? Okay. When I say go, silently and independently, work on your independent practice. 7 minutes. Go. Thank you, back row, for getting started. I see the front row circling their answers for number 1.
So it was really effective that you stayed at the perch. I think my push for you is be a little bit even more dramatic in your stand. So we know that like kids really can't, like you can't see much more when you get on your tippy toes, or like you're not really seeing that much more when you go like this, but be a little bit more dramatic when you're scanning.
Okay.
Okay. So this time we're gonna you're gonna correct me for like a side conversation.
Side conversation.
Okay.
Okay. When I say go, silently and independently, work on your independent practice. 7 minutes, go. Thank you, back row, starting your independent practice. I see the front row circling their answers. Haley, that's one side conversation. Level 0.
So what was effective was that side conversation correction was like lightning quick. There wasn't even like, you didn't even like harp on it. There was no, it was just gonna be a correction. What I would change for next time is if you're praising the level 0, just like, thank you for being at a level 0.
Okay. Got it.
Versus just like saying level 0.
Yeah.
Okay. So one more time. This time we're gonna do a correction and then an inappropriate reaction.
So would that just be like, what's correct? Or
So what that should sound like is, Haley, that's one side conversation. And then if when I have a reaction, you're gonna say Haley -2 inappropriate reaction. Okay.
When I say go, silently and independently, work on your independent practice. 7 minutes, go. Thank you, back row, starting your independent practice. Thank you, Perion, for starting number 1. Haley, that's 1 side conversation. That's 2, inappropriate reaction. Thank you for being in level 0. Jane, I couldn't think of the name.
Okay. So we're gonna try this one more time. What was it? I mean, your corrections are quick and they're like they're fast. What I want you to remember is to stay planted.
Yeah.
You're even like when you're scanning, even like the little like, if you want to go like this, that's fine. But what you're finding yourself doing is like you're doing little steps.
Yeah.
You're kind of moving around.
Okay.
So when you're like being dramatic in your scan, it's okay to like do the invisible column, but you're planted and your feet are not moving.
You're not, okay.
Okay.
So like you can like lean, but then you have to come back to it.
Yeah. Think about like you're always coming back to the perch.
Got it.
Even as you're leaning, like you're grounded in the center.
Okay.
Okay. And this time I'm gonna film you because I don't know why I'm filming myself. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. When I say go, you have 7 minutes. Silently and independently complete your independent practice. Go. Thank you, back row, for starting your independent practice. Thank you, David, circling number 1. Haley, that's 1 side conversation. That's 2 inappropriate reaction. Thank you, Elijah, level 0.
Okay. So we're gonna try it one more time. What's really effective is you're doing a great job of like, now that you've like internalized the steps of like what to do to ensure 100%.
Yeah. I'm
gonna again just like push you on remaining firm but being really dramatic in your scan so you get 100%. Okay. So like right now I know I'll even go in the back so that you have to like really focus on what's happening back here.
Okay. When I say go, silently and independently work on your independent practice. 7 minutes, go. Thank you, back row, starting your independent practice. Thank you, David, circling number 1. Haley, that's 1 side conversation. That's 2 inappropriate reaction. Thank you, Elijah, level 0.
Beautiful. All right. Nice job. How did that feel?
It felt a lot more normal than the first time I did it.
Okay, great.
I think because giving the what to do directions, it's more like natural now.
Okay.
So I don't have to think about that. I can think about like the scanning and the other stuff.
Yeah. One thing is there anything that you would add to our action steps so that you remember to scan and get 100%? For you, like, is there anything?
Yeah, I think like I wrote like 1 1000 and 2 1000 because I think when I think to pause, and I remember also to like scan.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes I just like go straight for it. And
Yeah.
Like the counting is like, why am I counting? Oh, I'm counting because I need 100%
Okay.
eyes.
Mhm.
So just making sure I remember this part before I move.
Great. So I think even just like add that like, so don't move until like, pause and don't move until 100%. I think that will be helpful for you. One thing that I do when I script that helps me remember not to move is the very last thing that I say before I start circulating is I have 100% of scholars working on their independent practice. That cues me to know that I'm ready to go. And I don't move until I have that 100%. Or I have 100% of scholars working silently.
Okay.
Yep.
So having that in the script
helps me know that like I am not moving until I have 100%.
100%. Okay.
Because if I can't say that, I can't move.
Okay.
Right?
And like if you are doing the directions and you're pausing, narrating, and you're giving corrections, and it's still kind of like, do I then repeat the directions that you
So yeah, that like if again that's when you want to do a whole class reset, you give the directions, you've positively narrated, you've issued corrections, you still have like 3 or more scholars off task. That's when I'd pull scholars together and I'd say I need 100% of eyes up here in 3. And then and I would say the expectation, I wouldn't even necessarily give the whole directions. I'd say the expectation is we're working silently.
Okay.
You have 7 minutes. Go.
And then research. Okay. Got it.
Yep. Okay. So when I come in, I'm going to be looking for that you effectively scan for 100% after you give your what to do directions. If you're not squaring up, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
So I'll be in the back of the room and I'm just going to give you this signal, which means you need to kind of pause.
Yeah.
Just stop and pause where you are. At the perch.
Okay.
So if you're not scanning, I'm probably just going to do this to make sure that you scan for 100%. And then if you have 3 or more kiddos off task, I'll do this for the whole group reset.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this is pause. At the perch.
Scan,
and then hold
reset.
pause, reset.
Got it.
And then the last thing is if there is like 1 or 2 students who need a demerit, I will point to those 2 students.
Okay. When I do that, should I do it at the front of the room or should I go up to them?
So I think that's like one of the things that I noticed was like you wanted to answer questions right away, which is great. But if there is a kiddo who has a demerit and I'm pointing at it, just say, like you have Davion, right? Davion, that's 1.
Okay.
Side conversation. You can do that up front.
Okay.
Now, if there are certain kiddos, because you do teach a lot of kids with IEPs, if there are certain kiddos who you know need silent corrections, that's a different story. But for now, we're just going to practice
doing it at the front. Got it. Okay.
Yep, as we get to know kids.
Okay.
All right. Any questions?
No.
All right. How do you feel?
I think this will help.
Okay.
I'm just kind of that class. I feel like I go into it more like anxious. So then when it goes wrong, I get more anxious. But I need to like focus on like the keeping.
Yep.
The calm part.
Yep. And that's what I'd say. Like, just remind yourself to breathe.
Yeah.
And honestly, like pausing at the front will give you that space to do that too.
Okay.
Because when you step in, like that's the second that like all of a sudden now you have kids around you and you're gonna even start to feel more overwhelmed. So pausing and scanning at the perch, like you can take the moment to breathe.
Okay.
And scan.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.